Yeah, part of how I prioritize as well is, having a space for just reflection and introspection.
Mm,
And for me, I've been able to really do that by mapping out, my own my own frameworks for how I'm organizing when I'm learning,
okay.
and also just being able to document my own gratitude in my journals. So I'm a
Mm,
huge fan of bullet journaling. I follow a lot of bullet journalers on social media, and
nice.
I think it's just a really great way to organize your thoughts.
Have you enjoyed listening to the Incredible Paul podcast? Are you looking for a way to support it? Or maybe you just want some swag? Check out the Incredible Paul store today. We have shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, hats, stickers, and so much more. Go to incredipaul.org, INCREDI Paul.org, and click on the store link. Or go to the link in my socials bio and click on the Incredible Paul shop. Looking forward to seeing your Incredible Paul look.
Turn this up, turn this up.
Your professional development is one of the keys to your career success. When you combine your desire to grow with actionable steps, your journey to success becomes an incredible reality. Welcome to the Incredipaul Podcast. And now, sharing his expertise, experience, and excellence with the world, here's your host, Paul Ferranbi.
Hi, I'm Paul Ferranbi, and welcome to the Incredible Paul podcast, where we learn how to become the most incredible versions of ourselves by learning from each other. Today, I have Dr. Bryan Dosono on the podcast. He is design researcher lead in New York City. He applies HCI, UXR methods in visual storytelling to scale economic opportunity through global products. All that sounds amazing. I know nothing about that, but I'm super excited to learn more about it. How about Dr. Soto? You talk about more about yourself. Introduce yourself the way you would do it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Paul. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian, and I'm really excited to be speaking on Paul's Incredible podcast today.
Awesome.
I currently am located in New York City. I hail originally from Wapato, Washington. I'm a son of Filipino immigrants, and I'm a first generation college student. And I always love connecting with those who, come from backgrounds, especially those who may have connections from the diaspora and those who are also just trying to kickstart their careers. Like Paul alluded to, I have a background in human computer interaction, and that is a discipline that brings together people, technology, and information. And the work that I get to do on a daily basis is use research to inform how we can improve programs, products, and policies. And in my current job right now, I work on improving regulatory and financial services.
Wow.
Outside of the typical corporate uh, job, I do have a number of hobbies that I think have helped keep me grounded and really have helped me prioritize how I show up to work. And I feel that I can always bring my best self to work because I am rested, and I think in general have an appetite to want to be the best version of myself in as many capacities as I can.
That is incredible. I love that. So I want to unpack some of that. So I definitely relate to you at some point as being a first generation immigrant as well. So did you grow up in Washington, or did you go to school there, or yeah, tell me more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Wapato, Washington. It's located in central Washington. It's between, I'd say, Seattle and Boise, Idaho. So
Okay.
it's somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah.
And I did my undergrad at the University of Washington in Seattle before I did my PhD at Syracuse University in New York.
Okay. Okay. I see the New York connection with the PhD.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I know a little bit about human computer interaction. I didn't realize when I saw the acronym HCI that's what it was, just because I'm not in that area. But is that something that you were always passionate about, or how did you even discover that was something you wanted to do?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So, right after I finished high school, I was able to find a program that allowed me to intern at a place like Boeing. And initially, when I went to college, I thought I was going to be an aerospace engineering major. After that summer interning at Boeing, I realized that I was really passionate about learning how people use technology instead of, just purely engineering the product myself.
Mm.
And I wanted to find ways or opportunities that enabled me to improve experiences, whether they're experiences for hard, tangible products or experiences that span the digital realm. So
Uh-huh.
at the University of Washington, there's so many different departments that do HCI.
Okay.
There's you can do it from a computer science lens, you can do it from a communication lens, an
Oh, wow.
anthropology lens. I was able to find a really strong fit for me in their information school.
Hmm.
And that information school at the University of Washington was able to really situate and ground me in a discipline that really valued how people were accessing information, how people were evaluating the information that they were digesting or understanding. And it was doing it in a way where I was constantly surrounded by folks with and instructors and professors that really placed research in a high regard.
Hmm.
And I think because of that surrounding, and because a good number of my faculty at the University of Washington got their training at Syracuse University, I also decided to pursue a PhD in the information science realm, and was able to find another great home at the Syracuse Information School. And I ultimately did my PhD on how folks use online communities to negotiate their collective identity.
Oh, wow.
And I particularly looked at the Asian Reddit space as a place for folks within my community to deliberate ongoing topics and to decolonize their sense of self.
Are you a STEM student? Do you have questions about life after undergrad? Are you not sure what professional development really means? Or maybe you just want to meet some incredible people and ask questions to someone who's been in your shoes before. The Incredible student community is for college students who want some help navigating through college, finding their way into grad school, a career, or even starting a business. We will meet once a month for an hour each time. You can reach out with questions at any time through a special group of people you know are serious about their growth as a student leading into a professional. Go to incredipol.org/community to learn more about this. You can also go to my About page, incredipol.org/about, to learn more about me. Join me in becoming the most incredible student you can be. That is phenomenal. I love that. I love that. So I know you talked through kind of getting into the space as far as learn about HCI and then kind of determine, like, because they're all, a lot of the departments found it. Had it? Was that something that you kind of tried a few of them, or did you go directly into it? I don't know as far as University of Washington how it is, as far as if it's easy kind of move between departments, or did you declare it like in your first year, your second year, like how did that even happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe, and this is like over a decade ago, so I'm trying to recall.
Yeah.
I probably declared it between the summer of my second and third year at college.
Yeah.
I was really fortunate where I could just explore different classes. I took some courses through, for example, our computer science program. I was able to take some courses through our human-centered design and engineering program, which is a function of our engineering school. And I also took courses through our information school. And for me, the courses I took through our high school just really resonated. And I just felt like I found my tribe,
Yeah.
at least my academic tribe.
Yeah.
So I just, when you know, and
Yeah.
I really wanted to dive in more deeply. And I think there's also something to say about that transition from undergrad to graduate. And I was so fortunate to have the support of services like the Ronald E. McNair program and LSAP Lowy Stokes, minority program, to really help provide strong scaffolding for how I can make these seamless transitions I knew that I couldn't really rely or ask my parents to help me navigate through this journey because neither of them went to college, let alone grad school in the
Mm.
States. So this is just something that I really wanted to make sure I felt really prepared and equipped to do so. And programs like LSAMP and the McNair program, I think really gave me a really great foot in the door and connected with mentors who were also there to look after my own success.
Yes, yes, I love that. Mentorship is so critical. Talk about all the time. And as far as what you were able to do as far as finding the support system that you were able to seek that out. I talk to students all the time. I'm sure you do the same, that a lot of people feel like they have to have their whole life's career planned out even before they apply to school. And I tell all the time that some people do, but majority of people don't. They just pick something. And then as you find something that you're passionate about, or maybe discover like deeper levels, then you can dive more into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I consider myself a type A person, but even with a type A personality, I could have never predicted in high school that I would be where I am right now.
Yeah.
And it would be really hard for me to make a prediction of where I am, of where I'm going to be, 20 years from now.
Oh, yeah.
I think, there are a huge part of growth is just being very open to accepting new directions. And, I think just the sheer amount of chaotic events that have unfolded over the past 5 years, with everything going on from US elections to
Oh,
the
man.
pandemic,
Yeah.
just make me realize that, the future is expansive and very hard to plan around.
Mm.
But finding your own way to best situate yourself in any way that the future unfolds, for me is something that I've been able to just take hobby by hobby or moment by moment.
I love that. Taking it each step at a time, each day at a time. And that I think a lot of times, like when you're interviewing it, I think they used to ask, like, what do you see yourself in 10 years or 20 years? Now I hear more like 5 years, but no one really knows. Like we used to use the saying about having 2020 vision, but since COVID, that has taken on a whole new meaning because no one saw that coming. But this whole idea of growth and in your professional life, your personal life, it seems like that's something really important to you. How did you get on that path? Because a lot of people talk about growth, but they don't always take the steps to get into it.
Yeah, part of it for me is, as a researcher, I'm just genuinely curious about the
Mhm.
world around me.
Mhm.
And I just find myself getting bored so easily. So for me, I find a lot of just personal satisfaction continuously learning, new things, new ways of working.
Mm.
I think earlier on there was just a number of different books and articles that I've been able to read that help me situate myself in a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset.
Mm.
And I think just being open and not just prescribing myself to one niche or a one track mind has really opened the doors for just a number of really unexpected opportunities. And I also think that in the there's only so many seconds, minutes, and hours of the day. For
Mhm.
me, I want to make sure that I am making the best use out of my time. And outside of work, I think there's a lot of fun ways that you can invest your time.
Mhm.
And I think especially with grad school behind me, I want to make sure that I'm using time in a way that is best suited for me as an individual and not just grinding away at some institution. We
Mhm.
live in capitalist structures, but I really hope that folks who are listening can find some time to create their own agency and autonomy for how they want to live their life.
Yes, definitely, definitely. You have to find that space, even if you might not always get it at work, but outside of work, or maybe in some pockets of work, you need to find that space. You need to find that autonomy to really for your own mental health, as opposed to just going on with because life gets really busy and cluttered, and until you take the time to reflect and think about, is this actually what I want for my life or not? It can be pretty difficult.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. So on this kind of, we're talking on this kind of talk about professional growth. I know as far as this whole idea of wellness is something that's really important to you. Is how did you get involved with that? As far as is that something that you learned in like grad school or an undergrad or even after, or how did that all come out?
Yeah, as someone who finished grad school, um, I think I was probably the most unhealthy in my life when I was in grad school. And
Oh,
that's because there was just so many different check marks and races and
mm,
systems that I needed to that I was just trapped in order for me to graduate.
mm,
I was in the PhD program, you are like constantly pressured to publish, publish, publish. And on
ah,
top of that, you have to like find something that is novel to
oh
literature. Um, and you know, what I think is great about PhD programs is they teach you how to be an independent researcher.
yeah. Mhm,
A lot of what I think is missing in the conversation of creating these programs to be more sustainable and healthy for PhD students is how we can really prioritize wellness
mm,
and not have that take away from your own academic journey or your own scholarly journey.
mhm,
And I think one of the biggest reasons why I decided to do research in industry instead of just staying in academia is because I was so tired of not having energy in
mm,
grad school. So I told myself I really wanted to, pursue a lifestyle that would support me being able to, know, live the life that I wanted to live and not have to worry about, a publication deadline that's looming around the corner.
oh,
And because of that, I've been able to really create healthy systems once I started as a researcher in industry. I worked in San Francisco for a while pre-pandemic
mm,
at Airbnb, and
oh
there that
wow.
was such a really awesome opportunity to, work in a new environment.
Mhm,
The city itself, I think, is it's pretty surrounded by people who tend to optimize their schedule, at least, in the tech space.
yeah.
So there, I think through osmosis, I've been able to see how people were really taking the time out of their schedule to go to the gym or to really invest in healthy diets that
Mm,
make them feel more nourished.
mm,
So I think just being surrounded by folks who are more health conscious, and that's certainly what I was missing in grad school, made me much more invested in how can I also go on this holistic journey of wellness. There are a number of different frameworks that I also picked up during this time. One of the frameworks that I subscribe to most is the 8 dimensions of wellness. And this is something that a number of universities have been able to, I think, adopt and share with their own students. I know that the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Association has
mm,
been able to articulate this well in the programming that they do.
mm,
Um, this 8 dimensions of wellness framework looks at all these different lenses for how you can improve your sense of self through a dimension of wellness. So, for example,
mm,
just like going through the list, you have your physical health, you have your emotional health, you
mm.
have your intellectual health, you
Oh,
have your occupational health, financial health, social health, your spiritual health, and your environmental health.
oh wow.
And all of these different dimensions of wellness can, I think some people tend to over-index on them. For example,
Mm,
I think those who are really early in their career tend to over-index on their occupational health
mm,
at the expense of, for example, their physical health.
mm,
For me, this was just a system that allowed me to see where was I spending most of my free time? What can I do to course correct in case I was not investing enough effort or attention into one of these dimensions? And
mm,
where do I want to grow next as an individual?
yeah.
So what my 2023 New Year's resolution is to really focus on all of these dimensions of wellness and see what I can do to challenge myself to grow in each one even further.
That is so powerful. I love that. That is the first time I'm hearing about that as far as the 8 dimensions of health. Like a lot of those make sense to me. I never really thought of the occupational health as something specific, but you're totally right. You're spot on as far as we're taught that we go to school, we go to grad school, we get a job, and we try and climb the corporate ladder, and that's kind of like that occupational health. But then your physical health and even mental health or spiritual health can suffer while you're doing that.
Yeah, yeah, it's just a great framework to see, you know, where you are and to check in. And what's great about it too is that, you know, you may have existing hobbies that allow you to grow even more deeply into one of these areas. For me, I think I just take on new hobbies every year,
Yeah.
and now I'm starting to see a number of these hobbies can also help me grow, in multiple dimensions. And I think that's where this model really shines.
Mhm.
Everyone has very fluid identities. People have overlapping and intersectional identities.
Mhm.
So I think, you know, hobbies are a way for us to just really, it's easy to compartmentalize our time if we allocate, you know, I'm going to be doing, you know, this hobby for X amount of hours a week.
Mhm.
Um, for me, if I want something to be taken serious, and if I need something if I really want to focus something, I put it on my calendar. And if it's not on my calendar, then it's probably going to be out of sight and out of mind.
Mhm.
So I would encourage everyone, set some time and really have your different dimensions of wellness as non-negotiables that you want to work on to be scheduled on your calendar. That way, you know, that's going to be either a constant reminder to you or just another mechanism to keep you accountable for what you want to focus on in the upcoming quarter or half year.
Yeah, I like that. What gets scheduled gets done. So
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, for those of you who are listening, take the time right now. Like, I pause the podcast, whether you're listening to it or if you're watching it on YouTube. You're not watching it on YouTube, you should be watching it on YouTube. That's all I'm gonna say there. But take the time right now to schedule some time, because what gets scheduled gets done. That's really important. Are you wondering what's next? Has everything you tried failed? Or maybe you just feel stuck? Then coaching might be right for you. The coaching relationship is a relationship totally centered on you. If you're tired of running on the hamster wheel of life and want to start to see results, reach out to Incredipaul for help. So what are you waiting for? Go to incredipaul.org/coaching, INCREDIPAUL.org/coaching, or at I am Incredipaul on all my socials. Or you can click the link in the bio for your free coaching session. I want to make sure you become the most incredible version of yourself. And I was curious as far as, so you said that's your New Year's resolution, those 8 dimensions. Is there anyone that you're more focused on right now of those dimensions?
Yeah, I think right now, for the good past year, I've been able to really look at my financial wellness. And you know, I'm glad to be in a space where I have access to a financial advisor. I have a number of just different assets in brokerages. So I'm really trying to learn how to make the most of the resources that I have, how I can, you know, take advantage of, you know, compounding interest, and how I can also gamify my own personal finances. You know, one of the hobbies that I am hyper obsessed about, and I could talk hours about it, is travel hacking. So how you
Wait, can you repeat that? What was it? Travel what?
Yeah, travel hacking.
Travel
So
hacking. Yeah, what is
it's the art of using points and miles to experience really awesome destinations at a fraction or heavily subsidized portion of what it would normally cost. And,
Okay.
you know, a number of folks, you know, you look at financial instruments like credit cards that will give you points or miles, which is, you know, separate from fiat currency, but it's an opportunity for you to make awesome redemptions that you might not normally make unless you were able to use your points and miles in ways that you'd like. So an example that I can give is in February of 2022, I was able to propose to my fiance. I was
Awesome.
able to plan out a first class trip to the Maldives
Oh, wow.
and propose to her there, and the
That's awesome.
first class Emirates experience, and we were able to stay in an overwater bungalow. All of that
Wow.
was heavily subsidized through points and miles. I would normally never spend that amount of money unless I had, a separate fun currency. And the arbitrage from this game, I think, makes it so much more fun and entertaining. I know a lot of consultants who, look at this as an opportunity to arbitrage their own everyday spending habits. So, this is just one of the ways that I'm trying to grow more into my own financial wellness and, making every dollar that I spend count and making it, fun in a way where I can look forward to planning these really fun trips. And these are trips that, I wouldn't have to pay an extra amount of money for because I can just redeem them for the points and miles I'm already accruing.
That's awesome. I love that example, and congratulations on your engagement.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And yeah, we can stay on this a little because as far that's the first time I'm hearing that term, but that's actually something I love to do. And that maybe it's just from the fact that in a recent role that I had, I used to travel all the time. So I got tons of points and
Yes. Oh, so
miles.
you're quite familiar.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I have all the stuff. And I think, and I'm glad you also mentioned credit cards as well, because credit cards are a good way to get that. And whether it's the Chase or the City or whatever, those are some of the ones that I have. They have like they give you a lot of points and you can transfer them to whatever you're trying to use or use their travel portal. But I think something that I want to mention for, which I'm sure you already know, but for people out there listening or watching, is that when you're using credit cards for the points, it's important that you are paying off your credit card balance every month as much as possible, because that's
in full and on time.
Yeah, in full and on time. And like I automate it, I say as much as possible, automate it. If you can't automate it, you probably shouldn't be spending it. That's what I say.
Yeah, as long as you use a credit card like a debit card and you don't spend beyond your means, you come out on top every single time.
Exactly.
And this is just one of those things that I wish I knew earlier about financial literacy. My parents, they just were not well versed in this. They did not have a credit system when they were in the Philippines. So a lot of this I really had to navigate either through myself or my peers who were already into this space. So, and especially for those who have a background in the diaspora, I think there's also this inherent distrust about financial systems and financial institutions. There are a lot of, for example, elderly living in Chinatowns who don't who probably keep their money like under a mattress and not letting their money work for them.
Yeah.
Not taking advantage of the S&P 500 or just like not having their wealth really accumulate over time because inflation is making their spending power so much less, and if only they had access to financial education. And I think that's just inherently something that is a byproduct of folks who don't have access to education in general. So whenever I can, I always just try to educate on the importance of building your credit history as early on as possible, making sure that you are fully aware of like what comprises, for example, a credit score, and just like healthy financial habits. My high school didn't teach me any of this. So it's unfortunate. And I'm hoping that more programs get to a younger audience, because if I had this information when I was, 15, 16, 17, I think who knows, but I would have been much more versed in making smart and prudent financial choices earlier in life.
Yes, I definitely agree. As far as the education is really lacking. You really have to come across someone that is already knows it or is doing this, or you have to almost be searching for it because it's not really something you stumble upon, really.
Yeah.
But no, that's really interesting. That's really good. So at what point did you get involved more in like learn more about finances or even this travel hacking?
Yeah, so at Airbnb, it's a I joined it pre-IPO, so
Oh
we were in
wow.
the travel space, and I think you know folks who tend to choose an Airbnb over other accommodations are very value focused and budget minded.
Mhm.
So that is where I think I was able to really get a good grasp of understanding the market in terms of what travel experiences can look like. After Airbnb, I was able to find an awesome UX research role at eBay, where I now serve as the a design research lead. And I look at I was formerly on eBay's payments team,
Mhm.
and now I look at the regulatory space. And I think what has been a really great bridge between the two experiences is that eBay is another marketplace very similar to Airbnb, where Airbnb connects guests and hosts, or those who are traveling, into those who are hosting spaces for travel.
Mhm.
eBay, being one of the pioneers of e-commerce and of online marketplaces in general, connects buyers and sellers. And it's this concept of re-commerce. For example, if there's something that you no longer need and you want to find a way to either get rid of it or sell it online, have a marketplace like eBay where you can do that, quite seamlessly, and have your items, available to, anyone who wants to buy it from you in the world. There, I think, now I'm looking at the financial ecosystem in a different lens.
Mhm.
I'm looking at how can we use this platform to empower small business owners or those who are thinking about selling more seriously,
Mhm.
um, so that they have another reliable distribution channel to get their goods and services out there, in places where they might not typically be able to transact at scale, to now this online marketplace. So I think in my own journey so far as a researcher,
Mhm.
the common thread has been economic empowerment. And I'm so fortunate that I get to work on products that scale to millions of users.
Yes. That's phenomenal. Like even I think between Airbnb and eBay, you probably help just about everyone. That's amazing because I've used Airbnb and I've used eBay. So that's so cool. I love it. I love it. What did that transition look like for you going from Airbnb to eBay? And were you still in San Francisco for eBay or did you move to New York at that point?
Yeah, a number of really interesting factors going on. So at San Francisco, I was there for pre-pandemic, and then when the pandemic hit, my girlfriend at the time, now fiance, she was able to match. So we met when she was in med school.
Okay.
She so yeah, I was doing halfway through my PhD program, met her. And I think from there, after she matched to a hospital in New York.
Okay.
And because everyone, and this was also during the super early peak of the pandemic.
Oh,
So when everyone was, very much indoors and all the commencement ceremonies are being canceled across the nation,
yeah.
um, it didn't make sense for me to be paying like a separate rent, uh, because we used to be living together when we were in Syracuse, and then I went to San Francisco, for temporarily for starting my own career. And
Yeah.
once everything went virtual, this was a really great opportunity for me to move it in with her again,
Yeah.
back to New York,
Yeah.
and ultimately was able to work from home for a while.
Okay.
And then this really great opportunity came up, and I was hired through the San Francisco office of eBay, funny
Oh,
enough, but then was eventually able to just make a eventual switch over.
okay.
And there, New York is really interesting because, SF, I think, or the Bay Area in general, people think of it as the tech capital,
Mhm.
of the world. And folks might look at, New York as more of the fintech or the finance capital
Mhm.
of the world, or at least the country.
Yeah.
And here at New York, it's completely a different scene. It's a different vibe. I do love the art and the culture that
Mm.
I have access to in New York City,
Yeah.
and it's a completely sort of different urban environment, but a
Yeah.
fun urban environment nonetheless.
Yeah.
And I have an opportunity to work in. I usually, if I um am able to fit in my schedule, able to go to my office in Manhattan. That's usually a 45-minute commute. Most days I'm just working remotely.
Okay.
And I think one of the great benefits or affordances of a tech job is just having that flexibility to
Mhm.
work in a way that best suits your lifestyle.
Yes, that is so important. Yeah, I think tech more than any other industry, I think is known for that flexibility before everyone else was able to work from home. Pre-pandemic, tech was, especially I'm just thinking of the Googles of the world, like allowing that and like saying like, yeah, just do that, come in when you want, sleep here if you want, eat here if you want, all of that
Yeah.
stuff. So with that, as far as this whole idea or the importance of prioritizing wellness, how are you able to do that, or what does that look like for you as far as the working from home? Because I know like in the pandemic, a lot of people who were not used to working from home, whatever happens is that they said there was more productivity out the door, but that was because people didn't really separate home life or work life. They just kept working. So I'm curious as far as, did you experience any of that, or how have you adjusted to working from home?
Yeah, so outside of the dimensions of my occupational health, which I felt I was doing really well, I was constantly getting promoted, and
Mhm.
outside of my uh, financial wellness dimension, something else I really want to focus on was my physical wellness. And,
Mm.
being in tech, I stare at a screen for so many hours a day.
Yeah.
And something that I really wanted to get more in touch with was my own cultural heritage, my own background. I'm Filipino American,
Mhm.
and I, up to this point, just have not really had the time in grad school to explore more of that heritage aspect.
Mm.
It was actually during when I was living in San Francisco, I started Filipino martial arts,
Oh wow.
and that was such a powerful way for me to explore my roots.
Mhm.
I was my very first day of my Filipino martial arts training, my instructor placed a really sharp edged sword in my hand, and it was a sword that was reflective of what my ancestors used to fight off colonial forces.
Wow.
And in many martial arts, I think different systems have different ways in which they like to train students to go from one level to the next. Like
Mhm.
what I think separates a lot of Filipino martial arts from other martial arts is that you train with a weapon on day one.
Oh wow.
And that was just, I think, something that was so vividly, burned into memory
Mm.
that I constantly came to my martial arts class right after work. Absolutely loved it. It was a really great way for me to stay in shape, to learn new forms of movement,
Mm.
to also learn and understand and find ways to protect myself in self-defense.
Mhm.
Especially, this was when we were transitioning into the pandemic. It was also a huge rise in Asian hate crimes.
Oh
And
yes.
it was just dangerous to
Yeah.
be an
Yeah.
Asian and
Yeah.
walk the streets of San Francisco.
Mhm.
So there, I think coming regularly to a martial arts class
Mm.
was just such a really great way for me to build that confidence in self-defense. It
Mhm.
was a great workout,
Yeah.
and it was a really great way for me to reconnect with my roots.
Mhm.
So there, again, just different dimensions of wellness. I felt that really resonated with me. And when I moved to New York, I was also able to, find other practitioners where I can continue learning more about and advancing my understanding of Filipino martial arts. So it's been a great way for me to just separate, at least for a couple hours of the day, blankly sitting down in a chair and looking at a screen. I can get up and move. I can stand, and I can also. I'm now at the point where I'm I'm able to teach others about Filipino martial arts. And that's also been such a fun journey for me to showcase to others the beauty of the art, and how it's been able to survive centuries of colonization. Nowadays you see a lot of Filipino martial arts manifest in a lot of American Hollywood media. So, for example, it's very prominently displayed in the Bourne Ultimatum series, the Jason Bourne series. It's
Oh,
in Avengers.
oh
It's
wow.
definitely showed its own way in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And you also see it in Game of Thrones. So there's a ton of ways in which Filipino culture is embedded in the fabric of American media. I think now it's what a lot of practitioners of the art are trying to promote it more, so that it's not just an art that has been able to survive centuries of Spanish colonization, but it's an art that is really beautiful in its own way, and it's very practical in the way in which it is able to um, really shine through for self-defense.
That is so amazing. And I am a huge fan of the Bourne series and Avengers and all of that. And I had
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah.
That's cool. I love it. Love it. So as far as I know you talked about the travel hacking, you talk about what you are doing with Filipino martial arts. Are there any other ways that you really go through your prioritizing wellness?
Yeah, part of how I prioritize as well is, having a space for just reflection and introspection.
Mm,
And for me, I've been able to really do that by mapping out, my own my own frameworks for how I'm organizing when I'm learning,
okay.
and also just being able to document my own gratitude in my journals. So I'm a huge fan of bullet journaling. I follow a lot of bullet journalers on social media,
Yeah.
and I think it's just a really great way to organize your thoughts. Again, not on a screen, but on actual like pen and paper.
Yeah.
There's this theme here where I'm just trying to like get away from the screen,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's just a way for me to also see how my writings have evolved over time. I still have my journals when I was in elementary and middle school
Oh
and
wow.
high school, and sometimes I look at it and I cringe, but I also see in reflecting at my past self the amount of growth I've had
Mhm.
as an individual. And I think the content that I'm producing now is content that I'm proud of writing. It's content I'm proud of creating.
Mhm.
And just to see that growth documented over time, I think has been just a really interesting way to reflect on what I've learned from having a growth mindset.
That's good. That's journaling is something that I feel like I've started and stopped so many different times. And the yeah, the fact that you're able to look back on stuff from elementary school, whether it makes you cringe or not, I think it's amazing. Because I'm glad you mentioned that that really is a reflection of growth, that when we look back at things and we cringe at them, even if it's just a year or two ago, that's a good thing, that you have
Yeah,
grown to the extent that you don't do that anymore. You don't think that way. Because I know, especially with cancel culture, a lot of times people feel there this whole idea of people are like this and they're always going to be like this, or they said this 20 years ago, let's hold it to them. I'm like, people grow. Like, they maybe it was wrong then, but that doesn't mean that they're the same person right now.
right. Yeah. Yeah, and journals are a portal to your past self. So
Mm,
and not only are they a portal to your past self, but they can also just help you organize your thoughts. And if you're big into manifesting, it's also a way for you to manifest, what you would like to see happen, or what you would like to, call into or think
yeah.
into fruition for the future. So it's just a really great way to keep things organized and centered, and to, at least for me, not always stare at a screen.
Yeah. Yeah, the common theme of not staring at screens. But I do appreciate you being on the podcast, even though you are having to stare at a screen right now, and
Yeah.
you've been doing it
No,
all
yeah.
day.
Yeah.
but no, that's good. Because yeah, I wholeheartedly believe in manifesting and in affirmations, because
Yes.
what you're saying to yourself and what you're thinking about yourself, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And a lot of times people think that they don't understand how to get out of that cycle. And the only way to break the cycle is to start speaking the good things, the life, the things that you want to happen. Even when if you don't necessarily believe it yet, you have to start saying it and start going that direction. You can't just only say it and think it and believe it. You have to take action too. That's the
Right.
key piece. Because people talk about, oh, you speak it, you believe it's going to happen. No, you also have to take action. Because I actually was just listening to a podcast and they're just talking about that. I was like, yeah, you just say it, and it's gonna happen. And then the host was like, no, I don't believe that. That doesn't happen. I was like, you have to take action, and I
Yeah.
totally agree with that.
Yeah. Making sure that you act, you decide, and you commit. And I think, once you do commit, having that consistency and scheduling that as part of your routine is going to be key. If you there's like an age-old adage that, if you just get 1% better each day, you're gonna see so much, compounding positive residual effects from just trying to be 1% better. And
Yes.
it's, I think it's just a way to, keep focus on any goals that you may have, and to open flexibility in, some of the initial goals that you do have. Maybe, you might, even if you don't hit that goal, you might be growing in different ways, either adjacent or orthogonal to what you've initially laid out.
Mhm.
So in many ways, at least, you're able to see where you can make pivots, see where you
Yes.
can make a redirection, see where you can have, overlapping interests and connect dots that way.
Yes. That's so good. Just like what you talk about, really overcoming that inertia and starting is often
Yeah.
the hardest part. We feel like, well, I'm gonna wait until I feel like doing this, and most likely you're never gonna feel like doing it. You just have to do it, and then as you do it, then you start to enjoy it, and then the feelings come a lot of times. It's good. Well, we are about out of time, but is there anything else about you or this whole concept of prioritizing wellness that we haven't touched on yet that you want to discuss?
Yeah, I think, the one other point I really want to make sure we hit is you don't have to go on your journey of wellness alone.
Mm,
In my opinion, you actually grow faster if you're able to go on this journey with peers or even with professionals.
mhm.
And nowadays, there's so many resources online. For me, I'm a huge fan of the resources that are available by either the Health and Human Services Department or the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Association. There are just so many different frameworks that you can look at and, see what works best for you.
Mhm.
In 2023, I also was able to experiment with more of the non-traditional forms of healing. Was able to, go on a sound bath with a good friend
Oh, wow.
and hear very interesting, resonance and vibes and just healing, through sound.
Yeah.
I also was able to try out acupuncture for the first time this year,
Oh, wow.
as just a different way of healing. And I think in all of these different explorations, either when it's with a peer or when it's with a professional, I've been able to, be more open in how I communicate my health journey
Mm,
and just be more receptive in seeing, what works great for my body and mind. What do I not like about a certain experience, and how can I
mm.
find other experiences that are somewhat related that I can explore or look into next. So again, you don't have to go through this health journey alone, this wellness journey by yourself. Find peers or find professionals that can help you in your exploration.
Yes, no, that's so true. This whole idea of mentorship and seeking out help, even if it's not someone that's physically there, but there's so many resources online. I know you shared some with me that I'm going to put in the show notes so people can learn more about the 8 dimensions of wellness, as well as more about mental health. Like I think you said it's National Minority Mental Health.
Yeah, July is National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. So I think there's also an opportunity for folks of color to really invest in themselves by investing in their wellness.
Yes, yes. That's so powerful. And I'm curious because what is a sound bath? I have no idea what
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah. So from my experience, a sound bath, you can think of it as a place where you can have your aura and vibes, sort of reset. For me, I was able to find this place in New York City. I walk into this, relatively small space, and I see like maybe 20 yoga mats spread out on the floor. I go in there with a friend. We find some yoga mats toward the front of the room, and there is this really calm facilitator who has different, I don't want to say bells and whistles, but different like drums or different instruments that that have really interesting resonance and frequencies to them.
Okay.
So I mean, I know that there are virtual sound baths, but I really wanted to experience one in person. And for me, I was just able to like go on a yoga mat, lie down, close my eyes, and just really immerse myself in the sounds that the practitioner was emitting. So they could be like low frequency or high frequency. Some of it can be like, I don't know, imitations or mimicry of like a rainforest. But it was just a place for me to like just really not think. I tend to overthink everything. So it's just a place for me to just like don't think about anything, just let whatever comes to you come to you. And yeah, that for me, I'm a very empirical person. I'm a scientist by trade, so going out and exploring all these different alternative forms of healing, I think is something that I never would have anticipated myself embarking on. But especially coming off of the cusp of a pandemic, I think now more than ever is now more than ever is an opportunity for me to just go all in on my own wellness. I would love to start a family soon. My partner and I do not yet have kids, so while we have time, I think this is a really the perfect moment to explore alternative forms of wellness and healing.
That's phenomenal. I love that. That sounds like something I need because I am an overthinker. My wife knows, and she helps you with it. It's definitely got a lot better since we got married, and it's been a journey of growth because 5 years ago, or even 2 years ago, is totally different as far as overthinking than I am right now. But like it's a journey of growth that I'm still on, but it's a lot better than where I started.
Nice.
For sure, for sure. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. I want to make sure people know how to connect with you on your socials or website, or how could people learn more about you and all the fantastic stuff you're doing?
Absolutely. You can find me, Bryan Dosono, on LinkedIn. And my handle for most platforms is at Bdosono, Bdosono. And
Awesome.
yeah, I have super happy to connect over talks of travel and technology. Outside of this, I'm also huge into skincare. That's my most recent hobby. So
Oh,
if
wow.
anyone wants to like connect over that, super happy to talk about that too.
Man, I might have you back on to talk about that because that's something my wife's really passionate about and she's getting me more into it, but I know very little about it.
Yeah. And the thing is, our skin is our largest organ, right?
That's true.
So we
Sure.
need to be conscientious of what we put on it. I firmly believe that, it can, whatever we put on our body is going to have at least incremental effects of, of how we are able to show up, in whatever, manner it is.
Yeah.
For me, like skincare has just been an opportunity to just pause time when I'm either getting out of bed or I'm about to go to sleep to
Yeah.
just slow down, work on my skincare routine, and just like not think about anything. It's very meditative. And for me, I'm always exploring new skincare products too. And because our skin's our largest organ, like I want to make sure that whatever I put on my skin is something that I'm personally comfortable having my body like digesting and consuming. So that's sort of my skincare philosophy. And I think especially since I grew up with eczema too. It's been an opportunity for me to really explore my own journey with my skin and how my confidence comes from how I present myself in work and in even events like this or interactions like this. And now I was able to through sharing my story openly and being very I think conversant about my own wellness journey, I now serve on the National Eczema Association as a research ambassador. So I think it's these types of opportunities that I would have never I would have never planned about this or never planned for this a decade ago. But because of the state of health and wellness of where Americans are today, this is just something that I think I really wanted to double down on this year and the subsequent years.
Wow, that is phenomenal. I like how you just casually dropped that at the end, that you're on the board for the National Eczema Association. No, it's remarkable, your story. Thanks for share your story with us, as far as like from being a Filipino immigrant coming to Washington, moving to San Francisco, going from Airbnb to where you are with eBay, learning about prioritizing wellness through the pandemic, and all these different hobbies and things that you're doing to make sure that you are prioritizing yourself, but also enlightening others as well, and even going deeper into your heritage with the Filipino martial arts. I definitely learned a lot for this conversation. I hope everyone listening or watching did as well. Thank you for being on the show, and for everyone watching or listening, keep being incredible.
Thank you for listening to the Incredipaul Podcast with Paul Ferranbi. We hope you enjoyed. Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. We'll see you here next time. And be incredible.